Welcome to Industry Innovations. Construction engineering is a significant contributor to the world's economy. It's a $13 trillion market, and the industry employs over 100 million people. In this episode, we're going to share how artificial intelligence is helping improve construction safety and productivity. We will even see artificial intelligence predict outcomes and make recommendations. And you will see a robot capturing data autonomously. All of that starts right now. Hi everyone, welcome to Oracle Industry Lab in Chicago. I am the head of Oracle Industry Lab, Burçin Kaplanoglu. Today, we will examine how artificial intelligence is helping improve safety and productivity in construction engineering. The construction industry faces significant challenges, such as suboptimal productivity and a long-standing labor shortage. Not to mention, the industry has been slow to adopt automation, partly due to constantly changing physical environments, but also because the industry tends to build a project one at a time. Artificial intelligence holds some potential solution to those challenges. Now, you're hearing a lot about AI, but let's actually define some of the terms before we get started. AI is an umbrella technologies that can include machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, generative AI, and AI agents. Machine learning and deep learning are AI technologies that have been put to work for a long time. For example, we've been living with algorithms that can understand patterns and have benefited from them. Machine learning is a technique that discovers previously unknown relationships in a data by searching potentially very large data sets to discover the patterns and the trends that go beyond simple statistical analysis. Deep learning is powered by layers of neural networks, which are algorithms loosely modeled on the way human brain works. Computer vision technology has also improved significantly in the last decade, as the technology now can detect objects, count them, and have autonomous vehicles, such as cars, drones, physical robots, and the construction equipment operate effectively and safely. Generative AI leans on machine learning to help generate information. In the workforce, generative AI brings more opportunities for automation. In construction engineering, an industry that collects a lot of data, Gen AI's ability to create schedules, project plans, and meeting notes has tremendous potential. Multimodal AI uses data from multiple sensors. The introduction of multimodal AI, which can process information from a variety of modalities, such as text, image, video, has made it possible for the industry to introduce more autonomous operations for increased efficiency at work sites. One of the technology we'll talk about is AI agents. AI agents are software entities that can be assigned to tasks, examine their environments, take actions as prescribed by their roles, and adjust based on their experiences. When a customer inquiring about an order, they can ask, "Where's my stuff?" And the agent forms its response by checking the order processing system, querying the shipping carrier's tracking system with an API, and gather information on the potential weather or other external factors that could delay it. The collective power of these AI technologies is bigger than the individual. In this case, 1 + 1 is more than 2. In this episode, we will share exciting examples of machine learning, computer vision, Gen AI, and AI agents. These technologies are applicable to various asset-intensive industries: construction, utilities, manufacturing, mining, and more. Today, our guests are David Mallow, Senior Sales Consultant at Oracle, who will share a prototype which he's been working on. Paul Bingaman from ANYbotics, an Oracle Partner Network member, will share capabilities of their robot. Josh Kenner, Senior Director of Product Strategy at Oracle, will talk about existing and new AI products. Tomislav Zigo, Chief Technology Officer from Clayco, a customer, will share his perspective on the impact of AI on the construction industry. As with every episode of Industry Innovations, we want to keep fantastic engagement rolling. Like, subscribe, share, and most important of all, ask any questions you have. We will answer them at the end of today's segment. If you don't have any questions, tell us where you're from or give us a shout out. We want to hear from you. All right, let's get to it.
Remember those futuristic cartoons with flying cars, instant gourmet meals, and robots doing chores? Well, gourmet meals still take time, but robots, we got you. They're called AI agents, and they're live today in Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications.
All right, I'm with David and Paul, and I'm going to start with David. David, first question. What is the impact of slow adoption of technologies when it comes to safety and productivity and automation?
Well, the industry's been working towards automation for a long time, but that adoption has been slow. Safety, which is such an important thing inside of our industry, has basically been flat for a while, and we've been wanting to improve that. And so we need to find new ways to do that. And productivity, sadly, has been essentially going backwards. So we need ways to improve all of those different metrics inside of our industry.
So how can AI help?
So AI can do a few things for us. First of all, it can collect large amounts of data, and then it can process those large amounts of data. So it can understand that data better than humans can when it's in large amounts. And the output of that is it can give us predictive intelligence. So it can tell us what our next best action should be based on the large sets of data that it's processed.
I know you've been working on a real-life example. Let's bring the robot.
All right, here we go.
How does this robot collect data?
This is the ANYbotics robot. They're a partner at the lab with us, and this robot has a number of sensors built into it. This is the LiDAR sensor, so it uses LiDAR to create a 3D point cloud of the space that it's in. That allows it to operate without any light source, so it doesn't need to rely on its cameras, and it doesn't need to be on the internet to find its way around. And then we have this standard payload that comes with it, and we use it for visual, thermal, and acoustic sensing. The sensors we have built in here, first of all, we've got a very bright LED light. We've got a camera that has a high range of zoom to it, so great visual imagery. And then there's also acoustic and thermal sensors as well. So it just depends on what type of mission and what type of inspections you want to use.
So we talked about data collection, we talked about autonomy. So how is the data processed?
So what we're doing right now is we're building an integration between ANYbotics and Oracle through Oracle's integration cloud. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to capture all of the data that comes from the robot through Oracle Integration Cloud and be able to push that into Oracle's construction and engineering applications, like in Oracle AConnex, where we might be able to do observations with that data or daily reports, or into Oracle Unifier, where we could create business processes. For example, if there were a reading that were out of spec, we'd be able to automatically set off a business process that creates a work order and has somebody go and fix that problem that we discovered autonomously using the robot and processing those images or readings through AI.
So I definitely see the benefits to construction, utilities, asset-intensive industries. This is pretty awesome. So Paul, tell us about yourself and ANYbotics.
Well, ANYbotics was founded by a group of leading roboticists to build the world's finest industrial legged robot systems, primarily for inspection use cases, where we can collect data and analyze it to take some of the repetitive but important tasks off the backs of people and redeploy people to more important tasks. My focus within the company is primarily on use cases in the utilities industries, water, gas, electricity, also in data centers and other asset-intensive industries.
We see the standard payload. David just explained what they are. What other payloads we can add on to the robot?
Well, in addition to the standard inspection payload that you see mounted here, we can mount secondary payloads behind the primary payload, and that can include enhanced LiDARs for 3D model building and digital twin data collection. We also have a gas leak detection system and gas concentration detection system that can mount in addition to the primary payload. And we can detect leaks, we can detect partial discharge in high voltage facilities, as well as determine if there are hazardous concentrations of gases.
Now we're talking about multiple industries. Can you tell us which industries are actually using this technology?
Certainly. We focus on the oil and gas industry at all stages. Utilities, as I mentioned previously, mining and cement manufacturing, metal fabrication, steel and aluminum production, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, food production. Those are our primary target industries.
What are the benefits of this type of automation?
Well, our customers are most interested in increasing safety and efficiency in their facilities, as well as decreasing downtime of equipment and making the best use of their workforce they can, because many are facing workforce shortages. So with an automated industrial inspection robot, a lot of the repetitive, mundane inspection rounds and security rounds can be performed by a machine today. And that means that the precious human resources can be freed up for tasks that only people can do, such as data analysis, troubleshooting equipment, performing repairs that require manual dexterity. And it can also be that much of the repetitive inspection work takes place in unpleasant or even hazardous working environments, like confined spaces, hot or cold areas, very dirty areas you can imagine in mines or steel mills. So our systems are really aimed at reducing the need for precious human resources to be involved in repetitive, mundane tasks where a machine can do the job better.
How are we using the robot at the lab?
Well, we'd like to recreate experiences here so that our visitors at the lab can really feel the value of the partnerships that we have with our Oracle applications combined with partners like ANYbotics. So one of the experiences that we do at the lab here is that we're going to program an autonomous mission, like Paul was talking about, which is the value of getting the humans out of having to do these repetitive tasks. The robot is going to autonomously walk over to our transmission tower and do an inspection, and in that, what would be a daily inspection, it's going to find that it has rust on that tower through its visual inspection. Then it'll be able to push that picture through Oracle computer vision, where we'll be able to understand that that is in fact rust on that tower.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Paul. It's been great working with you and the rest of the ANYbotics team at Oracle Industry Lab. Now that we actually have seen a prototype, we talked about the use cases, we talked about data capture, we talked about processing. We're going to talk more about AI applications and how we bring value on productivity and safety.
AI needs lots and lots of data, so I'm excited to tell you about the all-new Oracle Database 23 AI. Instead of maintaining multiple databases, you're bringing AI straight to your data in one secure database. Get a free test drive at oracle.com/database.
Now we are with Josh Kenner from Oracle and Tomislav Zigo from Clayco. Hi, Tomislav. Hi, Josh.
Hello. Hi, Barchin.
Tomislav, the first question is to you. Can you tell us a little bit of yourself and your line of work?
Absolutely. I always get the first question, but that's okay. I'll take it. Well, listen, I've been in this industry, construction and design, for the last 30 years. My path was sort of winding path. I traversed industries, and all of that added to a bit of an experience, a bit of a kind of fusion when it comes to technology knowledge that I've seen evolving over that period of time. Currently, I'm with Clayco as a Chief Technology Officer. I started with Clayco 17 years ago, basically moved to several roles from initial days of kind of empowering our digital transformation, putting BIM on the front page of all the Clayco activities, and now more recently really focusing around process implementation, data, and really trying to infuse elements of all kind of predictive and prescriptive within our business processes. Keeps me busy, keeps me engaged with the teams, and keeps my day very interesting.
How about you, Josh?
25 years in enterprise software, the last 20 in construction and engineering across a couple of different startups. Had the pleasure, the honor of working with Tomislav across a couple of those as a customer. Most recently, I was founder and CEO of a company called ANYbotics. We spent about 8 years working on how you could take AI and apply it to the area of construction safety with the goal of improving incident rates by becoming less reactive and more proactive. And worked with Tomislav and Clayco there. And it's great to be able to talk about now being here at Oracle for the last 2, where I'm in charge of the product line we call the Construction Intelligence Cloud. And I also help out with AI across the construction and engineering product portfolio.
Tomislav, let's talk about construction industry. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for AI?
Oh, goodness, this is a really good question. And, you know, everything starts how we define AI. But I would say, before we get into where the opportunities are, I really want to make a statement about the state of construction industry, because I think it creates a prerequisite for understanding how far we want to push this technology. Recently, I know you're a big part of it, Borchin. Everybody in construction is talking about innovation. Well, first, I think we need to define what innovation means for construction, how these novel technologies, not so novel, I mean, we all know AI has been around for 50 years, but how those technologies actually trickle down. I think it's really important to say that there are very, very few companies in this space, design and construction, that have really institutionalized innovation process. I think for us, the first step toward adopting technologies like AI and fusing them into opportunities is to actually really be more proactive and more aggressive when it comes to technology transfer and empowering people within our organizations to enable the technology transfer. What does that mean? That means let's look what companies like Oracle and your peers in the industry are doing when it comes to AI, and then us understanding how the technology can fuse into things like situational awareness, robotics, safety. All of those create immense opportunities to better our processes. I would say we are scratching the surface. We can dive into specifics of whether we are going to use Gen AI or we're going to use Agentic AI. But I think the first and foremost, we need to think about AI as being empowerment and that will optimize and push our know-how further without disrupting what we are doing today.
And in terms of new products, Josh, where do you see the biggest opportunities in this industry for AI?
Yeah, I'd build on what Tomislav was saying. In our industry in construction, I think there is a lot to be learned from other industries. If you just take one example, the manufacturing industry is one example. They use AI in that industry to predict if particular machinery on the shop floor is going to break down, so they can do predictive preventative maintenance. In that area, there's been some really interesting innovations in the area of AI. They've been trying for years to do it using, you can call it traditional metrics or traditional signals of risk. Things like what's the throughput of the machine, or how much electricity, how much energy is it consuming? Now with AI in that particular space, they can now look at other, you call them new or novel, non-traditional signals of risk. Things like, what noise is the machine making? Does it sound like it's going to break? You can actually use AI to provide a much broader set of signals of risk. This is something that's happening in manufacturing, and to Tomislav's point, we can do similar things in construction. In the area of construction safety, we look at traditional metrics like your observation rate. We then start looking at some non-traditional metrics too that allow us to be broader in the signal that we're looking at in terms of risk. In the Construction Intelligence Cloud, for example, we look at photos. So we're able to look at photos and understand what metrics of risk are seen in those photos and use that to build the broadest possible signal that we can get to try and predict things. Not like in manufacturing, which is a machine needing maintenance, but in construction, we're trying to predict a safety incident before it happens.
You mentioned Construction Intelligence Cloud, and Tomislav, I know you have been working with Oracle, collaborating with Oracle on that. How is your experience so far?
Well, listen, myself, people at Clayco as an organization, we collaborated with Oracle for goodness, 2 decades. Now, in particular, in the domain of prescriptive and predictive, or predictive and prescriptive, but depending which way you put it in, we've been working together with Josh and his team for past 7-8 years. I think we learned a lot about ourselves. We also learned a lot about the state of the industry and what needs to be done in terms of democratizing data, making data available across multitude of players in this industry in order to better our processes. I want to piggyback on something that Josh just said regarding how AI can be deployed or how we should infuse AI from other industries. Big part of the construction is that it's a relationships-driven business. Goes without a question. Also, it's really important to say that we are always seeking to introduce expert systems as part of, it's a long desire, 30, 40 years long desire to have expert system. I think what AI allows us is to start looking at our knowledge management, our previous experiences, build upon those, and start actually making decisions that are basically synthesized from our previous knowledge. This is where, for example, Josh and his team really fed in perfectly with what we do at Clayco. We started with predictive analytics when it comes to understanding how certain deviations are being documented through computer vision, pushing this to data analytics, helping us understand what is the structure of our historic data, how valuable this data is, and what are the connecting points in order to be more deliberate in our safety practices and decision-making process. I think the feedback was really good. I think people at Clayco were really engaged, and I can be only complimentary of the work that Josh and his team did toward actually engaging us and delivering a product that actually showed the real picture of Clayco safety, which is excellent.
Josh, anything you want to add?
Yeah, thanks, Tomislav. I think that's the highest praise I've ever heard you give anyone. Kidding aside, what we see in the industry is the ability to start taking data and use it in operations as being a key crossing point, a key metric. We've done a couple of public webinars with companies like Bolt Construction, which cut their incident rate by 10% and reduced their workers' compensation costs by 75%. We did one with Suffolk where they reduced their TRIR, their total recordable incident rate, by 57% by doing the things that Clayco is doing, by taking the data and actually operationalizing it in practice. To make it real for folks watching this, we can actually go through a quick demo. What you're going to see on the screen here is an example of the CIC Advisor product, which is the new Numetrics product, now in the Construction Intelligence Cloud in Oracle, all in Oracle technology. On the left-hand side, you see a set of projects ranked from riskiest to least risky. And what you'll notice is that the project number 2 has actually jumped 11 spots since the prior week. If you look to the right, you'll find the reasons why. The predictive analytics models are using data like Tomislav and I discussed, everything from structured data, and here you'll see at the top things like your rolling observation rate, things like what kind of manpower you have on site, foreman to trade labor ratios in terms of hours worked. And then in this third item, when you click on that, you'll actually see photos. You see computer vision identifying risk factors, things like work at height, which when you can combine the presence of those risk factors as detected by AI in those photos, it's great signal of risk that improves the predictability of your model and improves the model's ability to predict outcomes.
That is awesome to know that you actually can share with us some tangible outcomes like the improvements in safety and some examples you have given. Now, we talked about new products. Yeah. I am very curious about what you're working on. Can you tell us some examples of what is actually coming, what is new?
Sure. So we think about AI in 3 big buckets. There's predictive AI, which we've talked about. There's generative AI, and then the new kid on the block is what we call agentic AI or agent-based AI.
Hold on for a second. Can you explain us a little bit what that means? I think audience, would like to know.
Yeah, it is pretty new, and it's got, its share of buzzwords for sure. So let's take those 3 buckets, right? So predictive AI, what that does is it helps you as an end user get outcomes. So it gives you the outcomes and ways to try and avoid them. On the generative AI front, you as the end user, you get content. You get a narrative written or a report written. Agentic AI or agents, they help you as an end user accomplish a task. So there's specific things that the agent does for you that with the power of AI or large language models behind it, it now can actually do some logic and some reasoning that make what in the past we might call robotic process automation or RPA, just if-thens. It's now if-then, but with some logic on top that can actually be really powerful.
So in terms of adoption of this, what do you think is going to make this really happen in the industry?
Yeah, so I think it needs to be baked into the processes that we use every day. Let me give you an example of what you could call agentic AI. That'll be close to home for on the Oracle construction and engineering side. We're building a construction schedule creation, you can call it agent or assistant, that takes your construction documents, reads them, and then uses the content it reads to then create a schedule for you in Oracle Primavera Cloud, OPC, that has the right activities, it has successor and predecessor relationships, and it's got core dates as specific milestones in the schedule as it's created. So you can think of it as having an agent that's reading the documents for you and at least getting you started with a real schedule in OPC.
Now, I want to step back a little bit and want to really talk about innovations and question to you, Tomislav. Look, we're at the lab. This is where the big innovations happen. And we always talk about what that is. What's your thoughts on what is going to be a big innovation coming down the line?
I think we're on the cusp of understanding how fast we need to follow or how fast we need to infuse technology solutions. Whether it's a Gen AI, whether it's new materials, whether it's Agentic AI, I think it's really important to pace yourself when it comes to understanding what is going to be a paradigm shift. We also need to mitigate the risk. Unlike you, gentlemen, Oracle, you are delivering us a product, but we are the ones assuming the risk. So we need to be cautious in that regard. And I would say if we take a deep dive and bring the technology that will, in our view, create this paradigm shift, pretty soon we might find ourselves being kind of neck deep in the problem because there's a new technology on the market. Just look what happened with the DeepSeek. I mean, nobody saw it coming. Now everybody's running around crazy, figuring out, all right, why did we invest so much money in a tech when there's a new, cheaper tech coming around the block? I would say this, if I were to put my money on what are the elements of human activity when it comes to built environment that will be impacted by AI or similar technologies, I would start at a high level of planning cities and communities. I would start talking about infrastructure and smart infrastructure. I would try to dive into understanding how AI and those related technologies can help us optimize materials and resources. So it's not that I can see AI as being the next step. I see AI as being an accelerator. And when I say AI, I really mean artificial as opposed to aspirational. How that will be an accelerator that will help us actually prepare our society for truly 21st century and actually minimize our impact on the planet overall. I think it's also very important to say that if we are pushing computational advancements, and who knows where physical computation will actually move in the next 20 years, we need to make sure that we are not depleting resources for the sake of computing. We need to make sure that we are using computing to optimize the resources that are limited on this planet.
So the same question to you, Josh. In terms of the adoption, where do you see the, in terms of automation, where do you see that in construction engineering?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say I appreciate what Tomislav is saying. There are these trade-offs between sustainability and AI and where's the value placed. When I think about my 2 decades in construction, I reflect back to a bunch of one-on-ones on job sites with superintendents. And I'll never forget one where I was in the field and the superintendent said, "Josh, we need you to take work away, not add work. So how can we actually remove work from what we have to do?" And when I think about AI and automation, we've got a lot of opportunities for that. I think the answer isn't in the hype. The answer is in, back to a word that I used before, to embedding that AI in the way we work today. So if you look at the greatest potential for automation and the greatest potential for AI, it's just going to appear in our products. Just like today, we don't get that excited with autocorrect, right, in an email, right? Or we don't get that excited by the fact that if you take out your phone, you can search for a photo by just describing what you want, because under the covers, that's computer vision AI. You didn't really care about that. So within the Oracle construction and engineering and Fusion back office products, you're going to see a lot more embedded AI. Because in construction, we get asked to write a lot of reports. So in products like Primavera Unifier for owners, we're doing things like being able to summarize business processes into reports. We're being in our Oracle Primavera scheduling products, we're being able to create schedule narratives so you don't have to write those reports. In construction, in addition to writing reports, we get asked a lot of questions. People are interrupting, right, and asking questions. So you're going to see embedded AI, things like in Textura, being able to answer questions about what the status of a payment is in a trade partner specific way without a human needing to be involved, or understanding the status of a document workflow so that a trade partner can actually fix something that may be holding up their payment without a human being involved. And then last but definitely not least, we move a lot of paper around in construction, right? So there's a lot of processes. If you look at all of the back office processes that are handled by construction and engineering back office products, like our Fusion products, which have a direct focus on engineering and construction. A great example there is invoice management. AI there takes an invoice, processes it, reads it, dispositions it, taking it down to just moments, what used to take many minutes for somebody to actually manually do. So my answer to your automation question is AI is becoming a part of the way we work in Oracle products and all around us.
Thanks, Josh, for the detailed answer. And that really clarifies that how Oracle is embedding AI into many applications in many, many different ways. And thanks for joining, Josh and Tomislav. This was a great conversation. It's great to have you guys here. What a great episode. We learned how artificial intelligence is improving safety and productivity in construction. Thanks for your comments and engagement. We had some great questions. Continue asking them. We are going to come back and answer them. And if you want to learn more about Oracle Construction Engineering products, please go to oracle.com/construction engineering. If you want to watch previous episodes, you can go to Oracle Connect, which is oracle.com/connect. See you next time.